This is your Barbados Today Morning News Update for Monday, June 17th, 2019. Thanks for joining us. I'm Carol Williams. A Father's Day spent in mourning. It should have been a day of celebration for father of four, Peter of Middleville, Prior Park, St. James, but it wasn't to be. His only son, 28-year-old Emilian Peter, became the country's 30th murder for the year. His body was found lying in a pool of blood around 12:30 Sunday morning at Well Gap, Cave Hill, St. Michael. Police say a number of people were liming at a street light playing a game of dominoes when they heard a loud explosion. They ran and on returning discovered Peter's motionless body. His father remembers him as a quiet person who worked as a meteorological assistant.
He worked at the Met Office. It was approximately a year now he was working at the Met Office. He would have been a graduate from the community college at the University of the West Indies in science and electronics in these areas. So this morning I got a call around 1 o'clock that something had happened to him, and then I went into the area, and then of course the police was there conducting their investigation. I would hope that they can find some way to bring that under control, particularly all the gun activity, and so about the authorities can find some measures to bring some resolution to all the gunplay that we are having.
Meantime, primary and secondary school students and young adults are today taking part in a peace march and rally in Bridgetown. The procession moves off from the Islamic Mosque in Sobers Lane, travels to the Jewish Synagogue in Synagogue Lane, and then on to the St. Michael's Cathedral in St. Michael's Row. It ends in Queen's Park with a rally where the youth will present their own messages of peace and hear from Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Cynthia Ford, whose ministry is responsible for ecclesiastic affairs. It's another nerve-wracking day for children and their parents across Barbados. The result of the Barbados Secondary School's entrance examination, popularly known as Common Entrance Exam or 11+, is being announced today. Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Cynthia Bradshaw, makes the announcement at 10 this morning at the ministry's headquarters. As authorities look at ways of combating rising sexually transmitted infections, STIs, they're being told that the church must be a key partner. In fact, former head of the HIV/AIDS Commission, Carol Lady Haynes, cautioned that ignoring faith-based organizations will be at the country's peril. She was addressing the Barbados Family Planning Association's annual general meeting on the weekend. Lady Haynes said it's essential to change behaviors, pointing to a 2017 HIV/AIDS Commission report that found that only 42% of those surveyed used a condom the last time they had sex. She says 88% of those interviewed had received at least a secondary education, indicating that having education has no bearing on behaviors as it relates to sex.
Also of note in that survey was the fact that 72% were religiously affiliated. A piece of information which we ignore at our peril, as I interpret that to mean that the faith-based must be considered a critical ally in any campaign on healthy lifestyles, including on sexual and reproductive rights. Given the teaching of many churches as it relates to condom use, I think it is often presumed that the faith-based would be unwilling partners. However, my experience in the National HIV/AIDS Commission over 8 years was one where we forged strong and effective partnerships with the faith-based community. It was a partnership where the Commission respected the Church's teachings, but relied on them in the context of HIV and AIDS to instruct on care and compassion, which are so critical to eradicating stigma and discrimination.
Lady Haynes also urged some key legislative changes, which she says are of critical importance.
What I described as a 16 to 18 disconnect, where our young people can take responsibility for sex at age 16 years, but can't legally seek medical advice or treatment on their own until they are 18 years old. And secondly, the need for anti-discrimination legislation, which addresses frontally human rights issues, particularly as that relates to key populations and related diseases.
There's regional and international news after this short break. Barbados Today, news you can trust.
In Guyana, all eyes turn to the Caribbean Court of Justice, which tomorrow rules on the no-confidence motion matter and the case involving the Guyana Elections Commission. More from Capital News.
The Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, will on Tuesday, June 18, delivers its judgment in the no-confidence motion brought against the government on December 21, 2018 by the opposition PPPC. The government intends to follow through on the decision of the CCJ, says Director General Joseph Harmon.
Well, I'd say to you that this is the final court, and that is the CCJ, and therefore whatever decision the court arrives at is a decision which, as a government, we have committed to accepting, and therefore we have no trepidation or fear about the decision itself. We are prepared for whatever the court will decide. We will accept the findings of the court and we will act on that finding. So as a government, I would say that this is the legal process coming to the conclusion, and therefore we feel bound by whatever decision that the CCJ comes up with, and we will act accordingly.
The motion of no confidence was upheld in the Guyana High Court and subsequently overturned by the Court of Appeal. This prompted the opposition to move to the CCJ for its decision. Also, the CCJ will deliver its judgment on the appointment of the GCOM chairman, which the opposition is contending was a unilateral appointment by President Granger. Both matters are related to the holding of elections in Guyana. The opposition asked the CCJ to consider that GCOM chairman James Patterson continue as chairman if the decision goes in favor of the PPPC.
And finally, Hong Kong's embattled leader has apologized to the public after massive protests demanding she step down over her administration's handling of a bill that would have allowed extraditions to China. We get more from France 24.
Protesters in the streets of Hong Kong stayed late into the night. Over 2 million took part in a march on Sunday, according to organizers, despite the government's decision to suspend a bill that would allow extradition to mainland China. Demonstrators want the proposed law withdrawn, and some want the city's leader to step down.
Carrie Lam seems to have forgotten those who she claims are her children, us residents. She has pretended not to hear or see our troubles, or the injured protesters. She even called them rioters. This makes us furious as Hong Kong residents.
Dressed in black, many also carried flowers or wore white ribbons, paying homage to a man who fell to his death on Saturday after hanging up a protest banner.
Yesterday, there was a young person who fell and died. My heart hurts. I'm very sad about this. Why do young people have to use methods like this to fight, but still can't get any results? I think Carrie Lam needs to reflect on this. She must step down.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook. And sign up for breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Carol Williams. Have a good day.